Welcome back, everyone. We've been having a great conversation with the Vice President of Pioneer Title Agency, Mike Dalton. And with that being said, Sandra had a quick question.
Well, we've been really aware of fraud being a problem for real estate. So if you would just go ahead and kind of fill us in on what you're seeing from the title perspective.
Well, vacant land has increased in prominence as far as where the fraud transactions take place. There are two reasons. Because of the housing market being what it is, and the shortage of inventory, and people not being able to find what they want. What the fraudsters are doing is they're researching through public information vacant land and pricing it really, really below market. So people with cash will come in and say, "Hey, let's jump on this and grab this up." And there's usually a story behind this. It's sometimes it's like, we need to move real fast. I need the cash for something else, or I inherited this property. It's I'm not going to do anything with it, so I just need to get rid of it. I don't want to deal with it, so I don't care. I inherited it. So if there's always a story like sort of pushing the sale of the property, that's something that we look out for. We've had situations where we've had buyers come in and we've proceeded with the transaction and closed, and we come back later and find out that wasn't the party that was who owned the property, and when we send off the documents to be notarized, they're really good fake IDs. I mean, they're really, really hard to beat fake IDs. So we're doing some things locally to try to help offset that. So what we look for is, like, one, we have the ability to sort of, through some communication methods, really identify if the seller is where they say they are.
Right.
And there are some places where if we can identify if we can locate the IP address through the communication, that is a red flag of, this is a known area for fraudsters to operate out of. I won't go into the countries,
right.
But so we do have things that we see, and really it's the buyer that is really damaged, more so than the people who own the property. Because the people who own the property, there's actually it's Arizona Revised Statute 33-420 that protects property owners from fraudulently recorded documents.
Okay. So
if you're hearing this and you say, "I've got all this vacant land," or "I've got vacant land, how do I protect it?" Well, there's already a statute in place that offers that provides that protection, that you can't have an encumbrance placed on your property, or you can't have ownership transferred through fraud. You can look up the statutes, and if you have questions, you feel free to call any one of our Pioneer Title offices and for a little bit more information. But it's the buyers. We had one case and where the buyers bought this property, were starting to, really had laid out everything that they wanted to do with the property, but there was a storage unit on there, and the people are like, "Well, I'm not going to be able to get there. You guys can just empty it out, do whatever you want." Well, come to find out, that wasn't the owner that we sold the property. And we were fortunately enough able to work with the inheritant of the property, and the people who wanted the property, to get it worked out. So the property got sold, and the buyers were made whole. I mean, that's where title insurance and it comes in to actually do the job of protecting the rights of the buyer and the seller. So we made the transaction whole, and everybody went off on their merry way. But it's really something that has escalated. In 2022, a firm, Certified ID, which tracks about $100 billion worth of mortgage transactions, reported that there was a 145% increase in fraud attempts over the prior year. 145%. Well, you have COVID, and we had things moving so fast that it was easy, and actually the recovery cases averaged about $165,000 per incident. So per wire fraud incident, that's the average.
Wow.
And so if you think about having $165,000 all of a sudden missing from your bank account, it's a big deal.
That's a big chunk of money.
Yeah. So it's sometimes you gotta get back down to old fashioned sorts of transactions. Instead of wiring the funds, you can go to your bank and get a cashier's check and walk that over and hand it physically to the escrow staff, and you're good to go. But triple check your information when you're wiring funds, and that's just not real estate transactions. That's just anytime you're wiring funds. But on a real estate transaction, you really need to verify everything, every piece of information that you're getting. And what we look at for on our side is when we're paying out proceeds from a sale. Like last minute, we get an email saying, "Oh, hey, I need you to send the funds to this bank account," and we send and in the past, everybody people have said, "Okay, sure," and you do that, and those proceeds are gone, and the title company is on the hook really at the end of the day when that happens. Again, why you need to be using a title and escrow company for all your real estate transactions. But from our standpoint, every time we get it's like something's changed, something looks a little off, we'll call the agents involved, we'll call the lender, we'll call we'll call the parties involved with the transaction just to verify that, hey, this is what's going on. And a lot of times somebody's like, "Oh, hey, my email's been hacked."
Yeah.
So and we used to think of it as just the buyer being the one that's being targeted, but it's actually the title company as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone in that chain probably they're just looking for a weak link.
Yeah. Yes. And a lot of times somebody will send out an email to the parties involved, and it'll look exactly like the email that you're used to dealing with, but there'll be a slight variation in the email address, and you don't pick it up.
You're listening to Mike Dalton, who's the Vice President of Pioneer Title. What I want to do now, Mike, is I think we just scared the heck out of people for a little bit. So I thought that we would remind people who own land and vacant land, what are some of the things they can do? Give them some of the secrets that they can do. If I own vacant land, what's the first couple things you recommend that they try to attempt to do?
Do you know it comes down to the old to knowing the people that you're around. So just what you need to do is if you know your neighbors, say, "Hey, if somebody puts up a for sale sign on my property, could you let me know?"
Right.
Because that actually that's one of the things, like, "Hey, this guy's not selling his property."
Right.
It's creating that community of letting your neighbors know what your intentions are with the land, because when you're dealing with vacant land, a lot of times if it's a small residential lot, the folks around you are going to be familiar with the lot because they want to know what's going on next door.
Right.
And if it's bigger rural areas, people really have grown up in those areas and know each other quite well. So it's one of those things like, "Hey, I see you got some stuff going on. Is everything okay?" And then it's like yes or it's a no. We had one and it wasn't actually vacant land, but we had one case where we had an ID and we thought something was up, so we had one of our employees go and knock on the neighbor's house and say, "Is this the guy that lives next door?" And they're like, "Nope." We're like, "Okay, thank you." And
That's old school.
Yeah. So it is. It's kind of trusting the people, knowing the people that you're working with, and trusting your community, and being hyper vigilant.
And you guys have someone on staff that is dedicated to just working on things like fraud and verifying.
We actually have a fraud team that if there's any sort of suspicious activity, we kick it to the fraud team, and then we have a bank of tools that we employ to verify the information or to start to really weed out whether or not the veracity of the folks that they're dealing with.
Would you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of Pioneer Title, and are there other instances where you guys may provide a service outside of the real estate transaction that if they're recording documents, is there anything like that you do outside of real estate?
Well, we have. I mean, we're located throughout the state of Arizona. So if you go to our website, pioneertitleagency.com or ptaaz.com, you can find our website, and we actually have this department called customer service. And
okay, what was that department again?
It's called customer service. And so if you're looking for copies of vesting deeds or research on the property, you want to see if there's been any activity, we offer that's just something we do as a courtesy service. There's no charge for it. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to any one of our branches throughout the state and put in a request, and we will facilitate getting you that information.
Okay, we want to thank Sean Campbell of CS Design and Mike Dalton of Pioneer Title for being on the show with us today.
Thanks, Mike.
The Johnson Smith team is your resource for all things real estate. Give us a call at 520-850-1725, 520-904-7711, or 520-373-6864. And we'd like to thank our other amazing sponsors, Indy Realty, Inspired Life Mortgage, Rego Pest Prevention, Pioneer Title Agency, and Caring Transition. When you see one of our sponsors, let them know that the Johnson Smith team sent you.